MJF had a good match. Willow Nightingale had a good match. Mercedes Moné had an okay match. But one word to describe the other two matches is, and you can quote me on this, disgusting. Yesterday, I found something from 1969. Hold on. Hang on. Let's see if I can find this thing.
I'm begging you to update your equipment.
That's a tape player.
Oh, yeah. The cassette.
Hang on. Here. Let me turn this up. Interview I did with James Earl Jones in 1969.
I never asked that question of anybody when I was coming out. Even my father didn't ask me. You have to find out your own way. Because each way can be different depending on the person.
Thank you for dropping by Billy's Place tonight.
That was my show on my radio in 1969, Billy's Place. I used to have all the Broadway shows, show people on there.
James Earl Jones, who just recently passed away.
Yesterday.
Well, at the time of this recording, when you're watching this, it had been a few days or more. But, it's James Earl Jones was one of those voices, especially to some of the Star Wars fans, that you'll never forget. He was the voice of Darth Vader. And so, he's just one of those classic voices. And don't forget CNN. CNN. You'd always hear his voice doing that. He was so iconic.
Teddy, did you ever meet him in any of your travels?
No, I never did meet him at all.
Yeah, great voice. He would cut a hell of a wrestling promo.
By the way, you're watching the Wrestling Time Machine. Oh. I'm your host, Mac Davis, along with WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long and pro wrestling journalist, Mr. Bill Apter. Hey, guys, how y'all doing?
Good to be here.
Well, I don't know. You just started all of a sudden. I didn't know whether we were going to be. I didn't know whether we were going to be introduced or not.
I didn't either.
I'm just sitting here,
I wanted to keep the James Earl Jones stuff in there. That's why that was a good piece there, and I thought just go ahead and start the piece off right there because that hearing his voice and acknowledging the loss of James Earl Jones, I wanted to make sure we incorporated that. So
I still have this. I have hundreds of cassettes of old interviews, and I may be taking a sabbatical from the show for a week or two. So if I do, I'm going to send in some audio clips of some classic wrestling interviews that I did with a lot of people who aren't on the earth anymore.
Sounds good. And we will look forward. Well, when's this going to be, Bill?
Well, I don't know when what we're doing right now will be aired. So in the very near future.
So what he's saying, Teddy, is that you and I get the do the show without him for a couple of weeks.
You think you know all the wrestling stories? There's more you haven't heard yet. Join us on Backstage Pass.
All right, guys, let's talk about business here. Let's talk about when does it become too much? At AEW's All Out pay-per-view, there were several spots that made some of the viewers a little bit uneasy. I was included in one of those viewers, as a matter of fact. Teddy, I don't know if you've had a chance to see this. I want everybody to get a chance to see something. I want to add this to our screen here. Hopefully it'll come up correctly.
I'm pretty disgusted.
There we go. There is
one of the
first image. That's Daniel Bryan being choked out with a plastic bag. And the other one, Swerve Strickland with a hypodermic needle being jammed into his mouth by Hangman Adam Page.
Welcome to pro wrestling.
No. That's not pro wrestling.
No, Teddy, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, well, before I say anything, I want to get both of your opinions on what you just saw. Now, I do want to preface this a little bit because, Teddy, you do not watch AEW. Bill, I don't know if you had a chance to. Yes, you did get a chance to see this.
I saw the whole show, yeah.
The pay-per-view itself, All Out by AEW, for a lot of fans, they enjoyed it. For a lot of fans, they were shocked by some of it. So, Bill, what is your thought after seeing everything that we saw in AEW with the plastic bag going over Daniel Bryan's head and the hypodermic needle, just to name a couple of things that happened during that pay-per-view? What were your thoughts on wrestling in general being presented that night? Was it wrestling being presented?
It was, but not those two matches. Definitely not. MJF had a good match. Willow Nightingale had a good match. Mercedes Moné had an okay match. But one word to describe the other two matches is, and you can quote me on this, disgusting. I have been to ECW. I have been to CZW.
Yep.
I have been to Japan and seen exploding matches. But number one, if you have kids watching this on pay-per-view, and my 7-year-old granddaughter, Lucy, knows not to put a plastic bag over someone's head. I did that once joking from like a dry cleaner. She said, G-Pop, stop, you'll die. The cage match, number one, Swerve Strickland took a photo of himself and his family to remind Hangman Page how much they mean to him, and he took a staple gun and stapled a picture onto Adam Page's cheek.
Yep.
That
With
was
a couple
number
of staples,
one.
actually. Yeah.
There were staples. Yeah, he stapled it onto his cheek. They had a cinder block in the middle of the ring where they power bombed each other. It looked like Hangman Page's back was cut with a knife. And then what did it for me was, and I've seen this in the indies and I didn't like it, but for a pay-per-view that anybody could watch, to have the hypodermic needle in Swerve Strickland's mouth, that ended it for me. It ruined the whole pay-per-view. Disgusting.
Teddy, your thoughts on the images that you've seen and what you heard from Bill. What do you take from all this?
Well, I really don't know what to say. To me, it looks like they're grasping for straws. Like they're trying to do something that nobody else has done to gain attention. And maybe to also capture the audience. Bill said it right at the beginning, you can't put a plastic bag over someone's head when you got kids watching. They don't know whether it's real or not. So with that being said, just think about that little kid that watched that. And then he goes and there's his little brother in the room, doesn't tell his little brother anything. I'm going to do just what I just saw on AEW. Goes right in the kitchen, gets a plastic bag, runs in, puts it right over his little brother's head. Doesn't know that may kill him or whatever, but I'm just saying, he just saw it happen on TV. So if they did it on TV, it's okay to do.
Let me say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Teddy.
I have a lot of respect for John Moxley and
Daniel Bryan.
Daniel, I got him, Daniel Bryan. And I love both of those guys. I had the opportunity to work with both of them, and I have the utmost respect for them. But, I don't know why, I don't understand it. I just don't know who's making the last decisions on stuff. And the last one here, this hypothermic, what did they go after that? What happened after the needle was found in the mouth?
Mac, you want to take it? I know.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
So Hangman Page smashed a chair into Strickland's back.
Hard way too, Teddy.
He went down. This match looked like a shoot. He went down and he put Strickland's head inside the chair top and then started stomping on him for the finish. Strickland was out cold.
So the hypothermic needle was something supposed to maybe have drugged him or put him in another.
Yeah, that's what I had the impression of, that it was something to knock him out. Which,
well, why would you need the hypodermic needle to knock him out when you just give him a chair shot that really knocked him out?
The fans were yelling when the plastic bag was put over the head of Bryan Danielson. The fans were yelling, "This is murder! This is murder!"
Wow.
Right. Bully Ray told me something when I interviewed him at WrestleCon at SummerSlam weekend. I said, you know what? AEW has turned into what ECW was for the modern fan. The fans that watch AEW are looking for wrestling, but they're a cult of, and I'm not knocking everything, they're a cult of like ECW type of fans. They want to be like that, that's fine. But I think this was the most violent thing with the hypodermic needle. It was the most, and the plastic bag I've seen in the indies, and I couldn't stand it. But this was the most violent thing that I have seen on a pay-per-view, more so than any ECW or CZW show I've ever seen.
I will say this as a talent, somebody has got to step up and control the talent. Because as a talent, you're going to go out there and try to do crazy things. Every talent's got these wild ideas of things they want to do, but there's got to be someone that can pull them back and say, no, we're not doing this. Teddy, you and I talked about that earlier today in a phone call. Explain to people, if this were WWE during Vince's days, what would Vince have done?
If they had went out there without Vince knowing that they were, in the first place, that would have never happened. Okay,
Correct.
If it had to run by Vince, that would have never went down. But in case they didn't run that by Vince and they went out there and put a sack or a bag over somebody's head, they'd have been fired immediately. As soon as they went back through the red, and maybe Vince might even went down and dragged them out of the ring himself.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have put up with that, not 1 second. And like I say, and I hate to say this, and I ain't gonna call no names, but there are two guys over there that's been in this business as long as I have. They know better, but to sit back and just worry about a paycheck and just don't say nothing and just let the company get out of control, because it's certainly out of control. You can see that.
Oh, yeah.
It's really a shame, and that's why I don't want to have nothing to do with none of them.
I think that's why we saw a lot of the shock value we saw in this pay-per-view, because I do think that they're trying to keep their name out there and stay relevant at a time where their ratings are taking a dive. So
and
they
just did something else. They just did something else to really kill the ratings, because a lot of people after that, they won't watch it.
A lot of their fans, like the ECW fans, when regular wrestling fans tuned out, the ECW fans kept going back.
Well, and let me play devil's advocate real quick here. There was a time with ECW we saw crazy matches. You had Shane Douglas and was it Cactus Jack, I think at the time, Terry Funk and Sandman in a tag match that was extremely violent.
Yeah.
You had the flaming branding iron from Terry Funk. That was rather hardcore at the time. And Axel Rotten and his brother Ian Rotten.
Yeah.
During ECW, they had a hardcore heaven match where both men had taped their fist and then dipped it in glue and then into broken glass to have their match. So there's always been these shock matches. I think the thing that bothered me the most about the pay-per-view and those matches, and I enjoyed the pay-per-view overall. I think it could have been laid out a little bit differently, but other than that, it's just the plastic bag over the head to me.
And the hypodermic needle. That got me even more so.
I think the bags got me more than the hypodermic needle. I seen that bag around somebody's head because just like Teddy says, and Bill, you say the same thing. We have told our kids, we were told when we grew up, you don't put a plastic bag around somebody's head, they'll suffocate. So why are you putting that on TV? So to people who do say it happened back then, Bill, you're just being old. And by the way, Teddy always says it's just entertainment. Is this entertainment?
Yeah, if you like that kind of, you like slasher movies, and I don't know, I can't.
Well, you know what? You have to look at it like this too. The times have changed. We can get away with a lot now that we used to couldn't get away with. So, like now, maybe they look at that as, because you can watch a movie and you can see the same thing in a movie. You know what I mean? And what do you tell your kids then? So that's how they can justify that. You know what I mean? Because of the times have changed. Hey, this is not real. This is a movie. So what's the problem, guys?
Yeah, you can do that with a movie, but I think with wrestling, I think it's a totally different situation because it looks more, I don't know, it looks very believable when they do those things.
But Bill, if something happens or they get some backlash about it, the first thing they're gonna say, this is a movie, it's not real.
Yeah.
Yep. Which I'm sure they'll fall back onto,